Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. I've made ma'am the co-host, and I'm recording the meeting now, and we're live on YouTube. So.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, you're perfectly audible.
Okay.
Prasanna?
Yes, sir.
We can begin now if you're ready.
Yeah, sure. Shall I put on my video?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Hello. Uh, may I begin? Okay. Shivam, am I audible and may I begin?
Yes, yes, perfectly audible, and you may begin now.
Okay. Learning experiences are like journeys. The journey starts where the learning is now and ends where the learner is more successful. The end of the journey isn't knowing more, it's doing more. Good evening to one and all present here. I'm Ms. Prasanna John, student of MA English at B.N.N.College, your host for today's workshop. I extend a warm welcome to all at the 15th National Level e-workshop on UGC NET JRF in English on the occasion of centenary celebration of birth anniversary of Padma Shri Anna Sahib Jadhav. I would like to extend a special thanks to our respective principal of B.N.N. College, Dr. Ashok Wagh, Dr. Sudhir Nikam, Head of English Department and Chairman, Board of Studies, University of Mumbai, Dr. Shashikant Malunkar, IQAC Coordinator, Professor Bhimrao Paikrao, and Professor Rajni Rajbhau Wagmare for their immense support and contribution to make this event successful. This workshop aims to invite and accomplish individuals across to motivate, guide, and impart valuable knowledge to the UGC NET aspirants. The motive is also to introduce the best practices to decipher the exam. It's a great opportunity for me to introduce our honorable chief guest and keynote speaker, Ms. Mrunal Rajvivek Mohite, to start off the day 5 workshop. Madam is an alma mater of alma master of Shivaji University. She also adds another feather in her cap. She qualified, set in 2019, and net JRF in 2020. We are really proud to see your signature step for pursuing PhD in English language teaching and wish you best future ahead. She is proficient in English communication skills. Ms. Mrunal is enthusiastic in providing a creative environment for English language and language skills. Ms. Mrunal has also participated and published paper in one-day national seminar at B.N.N. College, Kolhapur on the topic of portrayal of lesbian and gay community in the films, Angry Indian Goddesses, and Shubh Mangal Zyada Savdan, held in the year 2021. Today, Ms. Mrunal Mohite will be enlightening us on the topic literary criticism. Ms. Mrunal, we are indeed very grateful for your valuable presence with us. We are looking forward to observe your immense knowledge that you would be inculcating this evening. I sincerely request Ms. Mrunal to speak and illuminate with her spellbinding words as we commence with the workshop. I, Ms. Prasanna John, welcome you once again, ma'am, on behalf of her B.N.N. Mahavidyalaya College. Over to you, ma'am.
Prasanna's screen is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So first of all, good evening, everyone. Today we are going to see literary criticism. So friends, I know you know all the syllabus of UGC NET. Still, I want to do overview of paper pattern and the syllabus of UGC NET. Then we will come to our topic. So as you know, paper pattern of NET exam is there are two papers. Paper 1 is for 100 marks, which has 50 questions, each question for 2 marks, and which has 10 topics, 10 subtopics that are teaching aptitude, research aptitude, comprehension, communication, mathematical reasoning and aptitude, logical reasoning, data interpretation, information, data interpretation, information and communication technology, people and development, and environment, higher education system. Then if we come to paper pattern of second paper, there are 100 questions. Units are drama, poetry, fiction, short story, non-fictional prose, language, basic concepts, theories and pedagogy, English in use, English in India, history, evolution and futures, cultural studies, literary criticism, literary theory, post-World War II, research methods and materials in English. Now you had a lecture for a short story and English in India, history, evolution and future. So today you are going to see literary criticism. So first of all, I want to tell you that this is 1 hour lecture. So in 1 hour, we can't complete a single critique. So I am going to just give you overview of the all the literary criticism and how you should follow this schedule or how you should work or make your schedule for a NET exam and how you can achieve it. That's my motto. I want to give you structure. You have to make your own schedule for it. Okay, so how many questions were there? So in 2020, you can see I'm talking about literary criticism. There are 8 questions. In December 2019, there is a one question particularly on literary criticism. June 2019, there are 5 questions. In December 2018, there are 8 questions. In June 2017, there are 4 questions. So see, except one exam, there you can see more than 4 questions you can have in your paper. It means it gives you 8 to 10 marks. So this topic is really very important and many people are frightened of this topic, literary criticism, and no one want to study this. But frankly speaking, this is the one most important topic in the syllabus which gives you immense marks. Like you can't complete all the syllabus, but these are few writers, 10 to 20 writers give you more marks. So see which kind of questions are asked on the topic. So what we should see, first thing is critic or philosopher or thinkers, their works which are famous works and the concepts given in their works. Then there are some questions which are for match the pair. So let me tell you which. So see, there are here we can have critics and text. So work is here important for match the pair. Then there is a question for chronology, which work published first and which published later. Then there are comments. So what is mean by comments? The one writer or one critic talk about another literary person or topic or literary work. So that comment is also important for us. Then there is a link. So what is mean by link? If we see Philip Sidney, Sidney write defense of poetry. So defense of poetry is basically a reply or opposition to Stephen Goson's abuse of poetry. So this kind of links are important for us. Even not for literary criticism, but if you see over all syllabus of NET, then you have to know all these links of each work. So we go through timeline of British literature. I'll tell you why I am giving this timeline here. Because when you go through all the critics, that time you should have this timeline. This is important for your chronology. Even if you don't know the age, like when he's if you know when he is born, at which time he was there, then you can automatically know the chronology. So you can see, once again, I'm telling, I'm not going deep into all the things. I am here to give you overview. So 450 to 1000, there is Old English or Anglo-Saxon period. 1066 to 1500, there is modern English period. Basically, we saw Chaucer here. Then 1500 to 1660, there is the Renaissance period. And it is also in 4 parts, like 1558 to 1603, there is the Elizabethan age. Then 1603 to 1625, there is a Jacobean age. Then 1625 to 1649, there is a Caroline age. Then 1649 to 1660, there is a Commonwealth. So there are kings and queens and their battle. That's why there are short periods are there. Then 1660 to 1785, you come across the neoclassical period, which also divided into 3. 1660 to 1700, the Restoration period. 1700 to 1745, there is an Augustan age. 1745 to 1785, the age of sensibility. Then 1785 to 1832, the Romantic period. 1832 to 1901, the Victorian period. 1901 to 1914, the Edwardian period. 1910 to 1936, the Georgian period. 1914 onwards, the modern period after First World War. 1945 onwards, the postmodern period is there. If we take an example of T.S. Eliot, then it comes under the modern period. Another example is Wordsworth. We know he is a romantic writer, so we can see the romantic period here. So if there are 4 names are given to you and you have to know which critic falls in which age, you can easily get this idea. So the question is, what is literary criticism? So literary criticism or literary studies is the study, evaluation, and interpretation of literature. Literary criticism means the reading and interpretation of specific literary text and or texts. So even we can see nowadays, we see movie and there are many YouTube channels or many people writes in news like newspaper. So these are also kind of criticism, but this is literary criticism. Here literary text interpretation is more important. So many people say that literature is first or primary and criticism is secondary. Why? Because without literature cannot do, no one can do the literary criticism. So literature is first or primary and criticism is secondary thing. Okay, so I choose 10 to 12 critics which are more important to us for the study, and I'm going like the name, their work, if there is any important concept, and maybe there is some kind of comment on it. So Socrates, he was born in 469 BC in Athens. He is known as father of philosophy. So see, in Greek, like Greek philosophers, there are 3. You can chronologically remember them as spa, like girls do spa and all. So SPA, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. So Socrates is first, Plato is second, and Aristotle is third. And Socrates is a teacher of Plato, whereas Plato is a teacher of Aristotle. So the Socratic method of teaching is very important thing. Like that time, what he did, like he gathered many members and he talked with them. This is dialogue. He do all the things in dialogue. So he does not have any single work written by himself, but later his pupil Plato write many things in dialogue, which is basically the thoughts of Socrates. So Oracle professors once said that no one will be wisest or intellectual than Socrates. So Socrates is one of the intellectual person in literature or in general. But at that time, political people and many people thought that he is corrupting the youth, and that's why he is sentenced to death by drinking a poison. Then second is Plato, who is a pupil of Socrates. His famous works are Dialogue, Republic, and Phaedrus. So you can see, I already talked about dialogues. In dialogue, he talked about Socrates' ideas. Then he talked about ideas. Ideas are the ultimate reality for him, means the thing itself is a copy. He said that, for example, if we want to build a home or house, we have some idea about it in our mind. That is ultimate reality, and the structure of it on a paper or the original home is mimesis or just a copy. So his views on arts or poetry is the same. He says that art is deceptive and it is not good. It is deceptive because it will not tell the truth to the people. It is also concerned with sensual pleasure and leads to immorality. And arts is also useless according to him, because art is just an imitation of the world. And if we want to see the world, we can just put a mirror in front of it and we can see what is life. So we don't need the poetry because it leads to immorality. People feel bad things like love or war. All things are bad according to Plato, not me. So his student Aristotle, generally what we see that students follow the teacher, but here the case is different, that Aristotle is a student of Plato. Still he didn't agree on everything on Plato. So his two books are famous, or works are famous. Those are Poetics, which is incomplete. It has 26 chapters. And then there is a Rhetoric. So opposite to Plato, he says art is truthful, concerned with sensual pleasure. This is the same thing said by Plato, that it arouses sensual pleasure. But Aristotle says it is a good thing. Good as catharsis. Catharsis means purgation of emotions. Then opposite to Plato, he says art leads to morality, and it is healthy thing, like purgation of emotions, morality, all the things are good. So art is necessary and healthy. So in Poetics, Aristotle gives concept of tragedy. He gives more importance to tragedy and gives 6 elements of tragedy. Those are plot, character, thought, diction, song, and spectacle. And he gives 3 unities, and these 3 unities are important. Those are the unity of action, unity of place, and unity of time. So what is meant by the unity of action, unity of place, and unity of time? Unity of time means in time frame of a day, the playwright should only take 1 day and not more than that. If we talk about place, there is the same thing. He thought that if we take example that some play is placed in London, then that should be not go above that. Like one scene in London and another scene in Paris. It is not allowed. So that is the unity of place. And the unity of action means it should have a proper ending, proper middle, proper beginning, like proper beginning, proper middle, and proper ending. Then he talk about concepts, like in poetics. I said that some concepts are important. The concepts are hamartia, peripecia, anagnorisis, and catharsis. So what is mean by hamartia? Hamartia means tragic flaw. Means if we take example of King Lear, that time when he feels that all my children or all my girls or daughters are good, and it is the hamartia, tragic flaw, that he doesn't know who is good and who is bad. Then anagnosis means moment of discovery. What is the truth? If we take example of any movie or any play, some character comes to know that no, this is my stepmother, this is my stepfather, or someone is betraying me. These moment of discovery or truth come under anagnosis. Then there is peripecia, that is reversal of action. And the last concept is catharsis. Catharsis means, as I told, uh, purgation of emotions, particularly pity and fear. Even Aristotle talk about tragic hero. He said that tragic hero should have higher status. So he should be of high position. He should be good. He should have some tragic flaw. He should be consistent as a character. So tragedy is important in according to Aristotle. Then there is Horace. Horace is Roman lyric poet, and he also talk about carpe diem, that is seize the day. Seize the day means, in Hindi we have a song, जियो तो एक हर दिन ऐसे जो जैसे कि आखिरी हो. It is the same way that this day or this moment is your last moment, and leave that moment as the moment is. This is basically carpe diem philosophy. His his important works are variation, odes, epistles, satires, and many more. But one of the most important work is Ars Poetica. It also began a new tradition in literary criticism, and he is highly influential during Renaissance. So this book is first translated by Elizabeth I, and then it is translated by Ben Jonson. In Ars Poetica, he gave three concepts. Those are poesis, poema, and poeta. So according to him, poetry is not mere imitation. It is a creative adaptation. This poem must have an organic unity. It should be one. Also here he gave concept of purple patch. What is meant by purple patch? Purple patch means a passage which has many figure of speech in just a passage, one passage, not full literary text. It's having a figure of speech, but only a passage. Then there is poema, that is form of the poetry. And here he talked that only 5 acts and 3 characters should be in a scene. So in a play or in a poetry, there should be 5 acts and only 3 characters in a scene. He is a follower of Greek, so he said that chorus should be there. Chorus is a must for a play. So you definitely think that I am talking about poetry, and again I'm talking about drama. So in earlier days, poetry is whole literature. It has all the things in it, like ballads are there, poem is there, drama is there. Even dramas were like Sangeet Natak, musical operas are there. Then there is poeta. So poeta means poet. So how poet should behave, or what good poet should do? He first thing says that one should publish a poem after keeping it 10 years. So nowadays, in technological days, we have Twitter, WhatsApp. The thought came in our mind in just 1 second. We just put that on status and on Twitter. But here, Horace says that keep the poem for 10 years and then publish it if you agree with all the thoughts. He said that the poet should teach and delight. He compare art and poetry with painting. He says, as in painting, as in poetry. And he says that there can be minor faults and that should be forgiven. Then there is Longinus. You can see this is in our first ED. This is first romantic critique. And this comment is by James Scott. James Scott says that he is a first romantic critic. First English translation of his work is done by John Hall in 1652. You can see he live in first century, and the 16th or 17th century you got the translation and work of him. So important work of him is on the sublime. This work is later studied by Edmund Burke and Immanuel Kant, where they talked about distinction between the beauty and sublime, which is approximately in 18th century. So on the sublime means quality of greatness. Here he talk about quality of greatness. He also try to analyze strong and weak writing. And here one's goal should be to achieve sublime. We can't measure greatness, but still he says that quality of greatness should be there. So he gave some features that he said that great thoughts should be there, like noble thoughts, good thoughts, noble diction, like verbal order and all dignified word order should be there, strong emotions, figure of speech, all these things should be there. And false sublime, like we say some bad things, what should not do. He says that use of pompous and bombastic words should not be there, childishness should not be there, lack of emotions should not be there. You can see that in romantic era or romantic age, there is a focus, or there is emotions are important there. So that's why here he is the first romantic critic, Longinus. Okay, then there is a Philip Sidney. I think we all very familiar with Philip Sidney and some romantic writers. Philip Sidney is not a romantic writer. I'm just saying that Philip Sidney is known to us the same way we know romantic critics. His famous work is An Apology for Poetry or Defense of Poetry. So this is a reply to Goson's School of Abuse as an apology for poetry or defense of poetry in 1595. You can see 5 divisions of work, that is universality of poetry, kinds and usefulness of poetry, objections and reply, discussion of the state of contemporary poetry, style and diction. So even he does the division of poetry, that is religious, philosophical, and two kinds of poetry. Sidney justifies his own praise of poetry. Poetry precedes other branches. He says that history or philosophy, all the things precedes poetry because it has all the things. He also says that Plato want to ban bad poetry and not good poetry. Also, Plato's own works are more poetical. So we can't ban poetry, or poetry is a good thing. He talked about universality, means he says that poetry flourishes in all countries, in all the ages. It is also long lasting. Like if we see any culture, first we see the poetry and the, like in even Maharashtra we can see OV, Lok Sahitya. So there is a long tradition of poetry there. So according to him, poetry is an art of imitation, and poetry is a speaking picture, and it also should teach and delight. Not only teach and not only delight, but teach and delight. He talk about three divisions. Religions means which praises God. Philosophical or informative poetry that imparts knowledge or philosophy, history and astronomy, etc. And third, at most important, the true kind of poetry. According to him, that heroic, lyric, satiric, pastoral, epic, all these are the types of true kind of poetry. So he says that poetry is superior to all the branches. It serves the end of all learning. And it should instruct but delightfully. So here some charges that like Stephen Gosson said, poetry is useless and waste of time. Opposed to it, he said, poetry is a conductive and virtuous action. Then he says, like Gosson says, poetry is the mother of all lies. But here Philip Sidney says that poetry talk about ideal truths, not what we seeing or what we are going through, but it is talk about ideal truth. Then there is a charge that poetry has a corrupting influence that makes man effeminate, like love makes man weak. But here Sidney says that love itself is not bad. Fault is the misuse of it. That's true even in our generation. We can see that this can be applicable. But love itself is not bad, but misuse of it is a bad thing. So again, he says that Plato, the charge is Plato banished poets, so we should banish them because many years ago he said that these are all bad people. But he says that Plato was against the misuse of poetry and not against the poetry itself. Then there is a John Dryden. He is a father of criticism. This father of criticism, Samuel Johnson called John Dryden as father of criticism. He is a poet, prose writer, dramatist, and his important works are essay on dramatic poesy, essay on satire, essay on heroic tragedy, essay on fables. So one of the important and most asked work of John Dryden is essay on dramatic poesy. This is the most important work by John Dryden. He analyzed objects with sympathy and knowledge, covered all kinds of literary problems. So in essay on satire, he says he prefers Horace to Juvenal. This is important in the essay on satire, that over whom he chose. Prefers Horace to Juvenal. And he says that he raised English satire to the level and dignity of the epic. Then essay on heroic tragedy, which is also prefaced to the conquest of Granada. Heroic play is imitation of heroic poem. Hence, it should be judged along Aristotelian rules of tragedy. We already discussed what are the rules Aristotle give for the tragedy. It should be written in heroic verse. It must have the dignity, grandeur of heroic poem. So it should be grand, like all what Aristotle said. And the matter and manner of the tales suit the character. Like higher person should behave like him. The other persons, lower persons should behave like them, like true to their self. So there should not be any bad thing there. Then essay on fables. This is a actually preface to translation from Ovid, Homer, Boccaccio, and Chaucer. He examined varied literatures that is Greek, from Greek, Rome, England, Italy, but he appreciated Chaucer and Chaucer's characterization. And also he said, here is God's plenty. This questions even asked that who said this about Chaucer? So John Ryden said that here is God's plenty. In language and versification, consider Chaucer as a rough diamond that should be refined and polished. So essay on dramatic poesy, it's published in 1668. Here a Frenchman come to visit England, and here we can see four characters, and the four characters have conversation on different things. Like there is Critus, Eugenius, Lycidius, Neander. These are four. Neander means Dryden itself, like it symbolizes. He take four name, and actually his friends are there. Like sometimes we talk about ourselves by saying like my one friend is saying that. Same way he take four person with different name. So Critus is Richard Howard. Like Richard Howard is the original person. He stands for ancients. He has classical views, and he says that previous ages are more superior, and rhyme is not a good thing, and he attacks rhymes. Then there is Eugenius. That original person is Charles Sackville. So you can see here questions can be asked that the name of four characters or the original name of those characters, and which character defending whom, like ancient, moderns, plays, or what they are defending. So Eugenius takes up the case for moderns. So he is defending moderns, whereas Critus is defending ancients. Eugenius said that moderns have more advantage because they have experience and the rules of ancient peoples. And he said that ancient plays neither delight and nor instruct anyone. And moderns added many new features to poetry. Then Lycidas, that is Charles Sidney, advocates the superiority of French plays. So he said that, talk about three unities. He said that English are not true to nature. By making play delightful, they make it ridiculous. So they also want it should be tragedy. So in French plays, there are no multiplicity of action and incidents. One character is above the rest, means there is one important character and other no one is that much important. And the French use rhyme, which is to be preferred over English blank verse. So he said that blank verse is not important and not good thing, and rhyme is a good thing. So last, Neander, that is Dryden, basically, he advocates the superiority of English over French and ancient. So he also defends English and modern. He said that we, like English people, have the richness of humor. Many French dramatists follow tragicomedy. Oh, then French plots are not that good, or they does not have any variety in them. And at last, here he says, I admire him. Him means Ben Jonson. But I love Shakespeare. Because you can see here he defends tragicomedy. But Ben Jonson does not have tragicomedy, but he only had comedies. And here he also defends rhyme. So as a defense of tragicomedy and rhyme, we can see that comic scenes in tragedy refreshes and relieves. Like in real life, we can see some good things, some bad things. One day is good, one day is bad. This is a similar way tragic comedy works. Like there is some tragic elements, there are some good and bad elements. Tragic comedy is basically a new way of writing which is unknown to the ancients. Also, he defends rhyme, that he says that rhyme is natural and it is good for language to be sweet. And blank verse is he don't like blank verse much. The next is Dr. Samuel Johnson. So Ben Jonson is different and Samuel Johnson is different. Ben Jonson is quite a contemporary, or he was in a age of Elizabethan age at that age, and Dr. Samuel Johnson is different. He is in the 18th century. His conflict was between a reason and emotion. So his important works are Preface to Shakespeare, Preface to the Dictionary, Lives of the Poet, essays, and articles. Some important work of them are Lives of the Poet and Preface to the Shakespeare. So Lives of the Poets, it's the first work in biographical criticism, or the base, pioneering work. His focus on linguistic achievement of poems. So particularly here, he tried to see 52 poets. 52 poets, he sees biographies of 52 poets and focus on linguistic achievement. What is the language and how it is used. And from 52 poets, only 6 considered as first rate. Like at that time he take 52, but among them 6 are known to us now in contemporary age. He criticized Lycidas, Comus, Donne, and Gray. See, we know Gray and we also know John Donne. So he criticized them and he praised Paradise Lost. He rejected blank verse, defends the rhyme. He says that blank verse is nothing but only to the eye. This is also his comment for the blank verse. So you can get the question that who says that blank verse as a verse only to the eye. He says that rhyme essential for the poetry. In Preface to Shakespeare, he's talk about merits of Shakespeare, demerits of work of Shakespeare. He says that Shakespeare represents general human being and faithful to the humanity. It is universal and also it's individual. So these all the things can relate, one can relate them and all the people can relate to these characters. Even we can say that Hamlet, Macbeth, and many like King Lear, all we can see adapted forms in Hindi and even in regional languages. So he said that Shakespeare does not have heroes, but only human beings. So he showed what the true human nature is. He also defended the Shakespeare's use of tragicomedy. Also, he said that defense of Shakespeare's, he also defends the Shakespeare's violation of the Unities, because he says that if one can believe something, like we are just, I just gave example that is someone can see London and the unity of place, that here is a London and another place is a Paris. So if we here in Mumbai or in Maharashtra or in India can believe that we are seeing London, then we can believe that now the place is shifted to Paris. So there is no need to follow the unity of time and unity of place. Then there is William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge. So these two are romantic writers. Important work of them, like of William Wordsworth particularly, advertisement to the lyrical ballads, preface to the lyrical ballads, essay supplementary to preface. So you can see all the things are related to a single work, but which are published in different timing. Like in the main work is in 1798, then preface first in 1800, and it is again published in 1802, and then there is a supplementary essay is in 1815. So it is like 17 years process. So basically, we know romantic writers or William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge talk about nature. We should true to nature, and everyone should true to nature, should be close to nature, and talk about simplicity. Simplicity should be there. So in both critics' work, we can see the same, that they want everything simple, like a simple language, simple diction, more stress on emotions. Even we know the definition of poem or poetry, that is spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling. So it should be spontaneous, it should be powerful. Powerful means emotionally powerful. Even he said that poet should be man speaking to man. It should give pleasure to the readers, and primary function of the poetry should be just to delight. He also talked about meter, that he also he wants like free. Everyone should be free. There should be a simple diction. It provides the element of contrast and the perception of similarity and dissimilarity. Like I think you know the Daffodils poem. Then there is S.T. Coleridge. S.T. Coleridge is, his important work is Biographia Literaria. In this, particularly important thing is the fancy and imagination, means concepts of imagination and fancy. First thing, it's primary imagination, which is possessed by all the people, which is universal phenomena. It means power of receiving impression of the external world through the senses. Means if we are seeing something, we are listening to something, we are doing anything, which perception, all the perception we take, that is primary imagination. But secondary imagination is plastic or a shaping power. It is peculiar. It is only artist people have this. Then there is a fancy, that is not a creative power, but if we take imagination as a body or a soul, then decoration or the drapery of it or poetic genius means fancy. So these concepts are important for ST Coleridge. Then there is Matthew Arnold. I know we are short of time. I'll try to sum up all the things. Okay, so Matthew Arnold, he is first modern critic and known as critic's critic. His important works are Culture and Anarchy, Function of Criticism, and Practical Criticism. So function of criticism is important here. He talked about touchstone method. So what do you mean by touchstone method? He chose some works, some important works of ancients and compare with other works. Like other works should be compared with all the great works, and then we can say this is good work, this is okay work, this is bad work. So that is touchstone method. He has influence of classical learning from his father. He also learned German, and German poet Goethe's influence also on him. He studied poetry and he wanted to interpret life from that poetry. So we are talking about touchstone method. That means to assess the relative merit of a work by comparing it with the work of classical writers such as Homer, Dante, as well as from Milton and Shakespeare. So we can say that comparative method is used here. He also talked about Chaucer's poetry, that he lacks high seriousness. He talked about Shakespeare and Milton, that they are great poetical classics, but Dryden and Pope, Alexander Pope, are not poetical classic, but prose classic. And he said that Gray is a unique poet. In the function of criticism, in the present time, he talked about the power of man and movement. For example, there are some students in Ukraine, like Indian students. They are there. Maybe one of them is a writer or a poet, and he is there, like the power of man and the power of movement. Like war motivate him to write something. So that is power of man and power of movement. Matthew Arnold said that criticism is lower rank to creation. Like as we said, literature is primary and criticism is secondary. We can see a limitation here, that he talked about function of criticism, practical criticism, and all the things, also known as critic's critic, but he just gave general idea and general study of all the writers, but not done any analysis like of single poem. He doesn't study a single poem the way he said. He also had prejudices by classical and moral bias. Like he said that he should critic should be like a good person, he should not have prejudice, he should be this, he should be that, but he himself is prejudiced by classical and moral biases. He also values only tragic poems. Maybe that's why he loved Gray, and he never talks about pleasure side or delight side of the poetry. Then there is most important, it's T.S. Eliot. He's critic, poet, playwright, and journalist. We also know the Murder in Cathedral, Westland, many poems and many works of him. But here, as a critic, his important works are The English Metaphysical Poets, Tradition and Individual Talent, Function of Criticism, Poetry and Drama, The Frontiers of Criticism. He also talked about unification of sensibility in metaphysical, like in the English metaphysical poets. So unification of sensibility and dissociation of sensibility, both things are important. Like thoughts and emotions, both should be there. Like if we take example of John Donne, emotions are there, still the poetry is intellectually very good. And he said that after 17th century we see dissociation of sensibility. Some writer only have intellect and some have only emotions. We cannot see both at a same place. So he says that after 17th century English poetry uh, go through dissociation of sensibility and never recovered from that. So these concepts are important: unification of sensibility and dissociation of sensibility. Then Hamlet and his problem. Here he said that lack of objective correlative. We also know that Hamlet is the most famous play, but T.S. Eliot does not like it. He said that it is dominated by emotions and artistic failure. Like in the same way, here only emotions are dominated and there is no intellectuality according to T.S. Eliot. He praises Dr. Samuel Johnson. He says that Johnson has the proper wit of poetry. He also not agree with Arnold. Like he says that Arnold, like Matthew Arnold, is too dry, abstract, and only focus on intellectual, and he avoided emotion in his work. So in traditional and individual talent, he talk about tradition, that tradition or ancients are important to us, but just for guiding purpose. He says that ideal critique should be impersonal, objective, and it should that person should not emotional. It should also have sense of tradition. So this is about T.S. Eliot. There are some other important critics. Here I just want to go through the names and why they are important. So there is Quintilian, who wrote a book, Oratorio. This is educational theory, which are basically 12 books, and all are posthumously published. Like after Quintilian's death, someone published these books. Then Alexander Pope is important. His work are Dunciad and Essay on Criticism. So in Dunciad, he started on hack artists. So hack artist means ones who write for money. Like I think you come across some Greek odes. That time people pay for writing. So he said that one should not write for money. So that is the theme of Dunciad. Then there is Essay on Criticism. Then John Keats. John Keats is one of the important critic. He gave a concept of negative capability. This is also a concept, but if we see, the concept is not directly given by him. Directly means he wrote a letter to his family and friends, and that time he talked about this concept. So this concept is we cannot see in any work, in any work. He wrote a letter in 1817 to his brother George Keats, and in that book this is the concept. It means ability to great writers make character bad and good. Means one should feel that I am that person. Like nowadays we see that method actors or actors try to be that character, try to behave like that character, and at the end, as a result, they feel that I am that person. And he said that Shakespeare has that quality, negative capability. Then there is Adam Smith, who is Scottish economist, and his famous work is Wealth of Nations. Then the famous writer is Thomas Hobbes. His Leviathan is important work which opposes Milton's defense of English people. Then there is a John Locke. His work is Essay Concerning Human Understanding, Treatise on Government. This talks about a concept tabula rasa, means our mind is a blank slate and one should write on it after some years. This is the concept given in this essay. Then Giambattista Vico. He is an Italian philosopher and New Sciences is a famous work, an important work of him. Then Edmund Burke, who is a British philosopher, and his famous works on American taxation, reflections on the revolution in France, a philosophy inquiry into the origin of our ideas of the sublime and beauty. Then some other important critics are Edward Gibbon, George Eliot, Friedrich Nietzsche, J.M. Hopkins, Henry James. So these are important critics I want to talk about. I know I didn't complete and deep dive into all the topics because it is impossible to do in 1 hour. But I am here to guide you and not to basically teach you. So I should talk now about how you should follow or what you should do to qualify a NEET or SET exam. So what to do and what to avoid. So first of all, make a schedule. I know everyone, each and every person will tell you that make a schedule, make a schedule. But see, make a schedule means it is not like, oh, I will do 10 hours study, I'll do 12 hours study, I'll do 5 hours. Take a list of writers, take a list of era, and see that these era, I will complete this era in this week. I will complete this era in next week. So you have to complete that whole era in that week only. And no need to just complete yourself, make a group. Maybe there are 2, 3, 4 friends. Take a previous year question papers, give it to friends, analyze them, that which age have more questions, which topic like literary criticism have more questions, and discuss it. And don't be time limited, like I have to do 2 hours, 3 hours. Just make a schedule again for a day and just complete it. Maybe you need 1 hour. If you complete in 1 hour, just throw it. No need to see that on that day. But if you take 4 hours, then also complete it. Then next thing is limit the sources and revise it. No need to take 20,000 books, 20 books and just read this, read that. No. Take a book for a topic, just read again and again, revise it thoroughly. This is a kind of competitive exam and you can't just go hard work and you can't just go by shortcut. So you have to equally do both the works, like hard work and smart work. And maybe someone say that don't use social media, but I will definitely say use social media, but in a good way. It is dudhari talwar, so it has two sides and you have to use good side of it. So make Telegram group, make WhatsApp group, discuss things on it, or share many videos, YouTube videos or some articles, blogs related to your topic. And uh, there is a quote or there is thing like, if you have 1 rupee coin and if I give it to you, and if you will give it to other, then it will not grow. But if you give your thought to other person and that person will give that thought to other person, then people will be richer by thoughts. So don't be shy to express yourself, teach and learn. So as I said, that make a group of 2 or 3 people and talk with them, try to teach them. Again, make parts of your syllabus and just spread in your friends and try to teach that. Again, in social media, I make YouTube point differently, because sir said that give something to students. So specifically here are some name which can be useful for you. So for paper second, there is a study lovers. Here Kapil sir talk about different books or summary of different novels, like in 10 minutes 20 minutes you get summary of a whole novel or some drama. Then Jana multitasker. For critical theories, it is one of the important YouTube channel. Then I know you all are very familiar with Arpita Karma ma'am, Kalyani Valat ma'am, and Vinit Pandey sir. So these three are also good YouTubers to learn or teachers to learn. Then for paper one, dynamic study and commerce net achievers are the best channels according to me. I am not saying that this will help you all, but try to see it. Some other channels are also there. If I find all that, then I'll put it in a YouTube comment link. Okay, so with the saying that all the best to all the aspirants of NEET and SET, uh, I want to say thank you to B.N.N.College Bhiwandi, principal sir, head of the department, Nikam sir, and also organizing committee and Prasanna and all the organizers for such a good event, fruitful event for the students. Like, and it is a big thing, like 15 days event. So thank you so much for inviting me, and I want to say congratulations to you for organizing such a thing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving us an overview on the topic literary criticism. The topic traced the key points in these domains, beginning from the classical times of Aristotle, Plato, Horace, and Longinus, till more recent theoretical trends. Throughout the session, you have encouraged to closely read the text prescribed and understand specific concepts, framework, and literary traditions. Thank you, ma'am. We feel elated and grateful to have had an opportunity to learn from such a talented personality. It was a very fruitful and a wonderful session of sharing knowledge with our spurring participants. Thank you, ma'am, so much. Before I wind up today's session, I would like to intimate everyone about tomorrow's workshop, which will be held sharp at 7 p.m. with another guest, Dr. Shrikant Mohan Rao, sir. This event will be hosted by Ms. Aiman Sheikh. Until then, take care, everyone, and have a good night. God bless you all. Thank you for joining in. The crowd may disappear.